All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 98 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I'm with my main man, Drew, at DR_PRA, and a special guest, that network brother, one of my favorite dudes just to talk fantasy with, Rocky at Dynasty FF Addict. Rocky, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the introduction, Josh. I missed Trade Addicts this week because I had a family commitment. I needed to get my DAP fix in, besides Junkies, which I'm also doing tomorrow. And of course, I really wanted to pod with Drew here. I mean, it's just such an honor to pod with Drew, and it's nice to see you too, Josh.
Oh, listen, I get it. I mean, Drew's make what stirs the drink on the timeline, so I understand. Wanted to get on with him. Drew, man, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk some football. It's been a long hump day at work, so let's have some fun here.
I feel you on that. A long day, and I mean, we gotta get ready for week 3. I can't believe I'm already saying week 3. I feel like that first Thursday night game was just yesterday, and we're already now talking about the third Thursday night game between the Panthers and the Texans. So
yeah, the off season seems forever, and before you know it, it's going to be like week 12.
The off season seems so long, and then you're like aching for the season, and then it blows by, and you're back in that off season again. So, but we're gonna have fun with this. So, hey. We got to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of week 2. You guys know how it goes. We're going to do this snake draft style. We'll all go through our goods, then we'll all go through our bads, and then our uglies. So I'll start us off. And my good is Derrick Henry. And listen, I have no problem saying I was wrong. Last week, he was the bad. And he was. Week 1, he was part of that bad. But boy, he shut everybody up who might have said, maybe he too many carries, too much time out on the field, got hit too many times. 35 rushes for 182 yards and 3 touchdowns. But wait, because there was also 6 receptions for 55 yards, in case you said that man can't catch the ball. He proved everybody wrong. People who were doubting on him. He blew up, man. I mean, yes, the game went to overtime, but I don't care. You rush for 182 yards and then add 50 plus in the receiving game. I don't care if you had 90 minutes to play. That's still a lot. So that's my good. Drew, what about you? Who was your good for week 2?
My good is Kyler Murray, and I was able to get him in a redraft league and a 2 QB league as my QB1. And I was debating between him and your boy Dak. And so far I am pleased with my decision so far. 400 yards through the air. Had a couple of picks, but that rushing floor saved him, got some yards and a touchdown there. So really excited to see what he's going to continue to do this year. And that Arizona team looks primed to make some noise.
I'm going to say you chose wisely. I love Dak, but it wasn't a contest for week 2. So that was the right decision. And I can't fault you for that at all. All right, Rocky, who's your good for week 2?
I'll get to my good in a second. Just to comment on your 2, I think Henry, if he's he had like 3 or 4 catches in the first game too.
Yes, he did.
And I think I heard somewhere that he'd never had 6 targets in a game before this past week, and he caught 6 balls. If he starts catching passes, I mean, he's gonna be like the CMC or something here, because the touchdowns and yardage he racks up, and Kyler's. I'm not the big elite quarterback guy, but I think he's going to be that guy this year, like 2019 Lamar Jackson. He's just going to win people fantasy leagues. So he was great in week 2. He was great in week 1. But I just wanted to comment on those 2. And I had to all mine are kind of based off of the first 2 weeks, not just this week. But I wasn't on the show last week, so I think that's okay.
All good. All good.
Excuse me. But mine, I have to go with my boy Hawk. I went 8 8 for 66 and a touch this week. I think he had 8 for 97 and a touchdown last week. I've been saying it all off season. I mean, most people thought Hawk was going to be good this year. That's not a big hot take or anything, but I've been saying he's going to be in that elite tier, and he, at least through 2 games, he is. I mean, in 1.5 premium, Kelsey's at 56 points. And Gronk and Hawk are within 2 points of him right below. And Waller's a few points below that. Points per game between Hawk and number 5 Fant, there's 12 points difference. So that's what I've been trying to say, is not just Hawk's going to be good, not just Hawk's going to be better than last year. He's going to be Waller, he's going to be Kittle, which Kittle isn't even Kittle right now, but he's going to be in that tier where you really care about having him on your team. It's not just, nobody cares about having a tight end 1 if they're, tight end 8, because the difference between tight end like 5 and 15 is like a point. So he's going to be one of those difference makers this year. I've said it all off season. And Goff has been respectable. Everybody said, this quarterback was trash, and is he going to get that much more targets than last year when Kenny Golladay was out most of the year anyway? And the answer is yes, he is. And the offense is running through him. Goff's respectable enough to get him the ball. The Lions have actually put up a fight in both of their first 2 games, at least for a half, against the Packers. So I think this is going to continue all year. And I'm loving seeing it. I'm taking that early season victory lap on Hawk.
Well, and just to touch on Hawk for a minute, I severely cut back my startup draft game this past offseason, which is a mistake I'm going to rectify in 2022. But in just about every startup I was in, I got Hawk. I mean, I was so all in on this, and I agree with you. Everybody, Jared Goff sucks. I said Jared Goff is average. And you know what? Average is all I need to get the ball to Hawk. Yes, I know DeAndre Swift is going to catch some passes, and apparently so is Jamal Williams. But Hawk is that dude. He is the wide receiver 1 on that team. And yes, I know he plays tight end, but he is the wide receiver 1 on that team. And the good news is that the Lions are going to be fighting in every game just to make it respectable. So they're going to have to throw that 40, 50 times a game. So let's go. Let's get them all, as many as we can, the Hawk, and keep it moving. But Rocky, since this is the snake, why don't you hit us with your bad next?
Yeah, my bad is just is not one particular player. I just went with the Jags, and specifically, I think Urban Meyer more than anyone. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. He's making the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck looked like trash through 2 games. He's misusing James Robinson. He at least got more touches than Hyde this week. But in the game, they weren't getting killed for most of it. He only got 11 carries, which he turned into 4.4 yards a carry. But he didn't get that much usage. And Chark went 1 for 19. Chenault went 2 for -3. The only guy who's doing anything on that roster is Marvin Jones. Apparently, he's been around the league long enough. He can withstand the Urban Meyer stink and still produce. But yeah, I mean, it just looks ridiculous out there what they're doing. They played 2 decent defenses these first 2 games, but it's still really bad. And I have worry for any Jags on my team. And I've been people have called me a James Robinson truther. I don't know if I feel I'm that strong towards him, but I was definitely a supporter. And I thought, he produced a top 5 season on a 1-15 team last year. And I figured, it couldn't get worse, but little did I know Urban Meyer was laying in the weeds to make it worse.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to James Robinson, and it wasn't a talent-based argument. It was just we've seen undrafted free agents come into the league. They have the 1 year, and coaching staffs for some reason just can't accept that everybody made a mistake, and they bring more guys to come in. And people were like, well, Carlos Hyde isn't the guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, everybody knows Carlos Hyde isn't the guy. And then it was Travis Etienne, and then everyone was like, oh, man, that sucks. Unfortunately, Etienne gets injured. And then I was like, well, okay, now it's James Robinson. The only other help, I'll put that in quotes, was Carlos Hyde. He's just going to do what he did last year because at this point, there's no one in the way to stop him. Again, I'm in the same boat as you, Rocky. I didn't think, Urban Meyer was out there just trying to snipe his own players.
Yeah.
But I have a hot take that's probably not really a hot take. It's probably more of a warm take. I don't think Urban Meyer is the coach of the Jags in 2022.
Nope.
I think
I'm not sure he's the coach of the Jags at the end of 2021. Like game 17. I don't know if he's still the coach of the Jags.
I think he has realized that the NFL game is not the college game, just with better players. And actually, Pat McAfee talks about this, about how college coaches go to the NFL and they're so used to bossing around 18 to 20-year-old kids. And then they go to the NFL where your starting quarterback is making $18 million a year. Your starting left tackle is making $15 million a year. You have a defensive end that's making $20 million a year. You can't yell at them and tell them what to do because they have leverage. The ownership will kick you out before they kick them out because they don't want to pay a whole lot of money for no results. And I think Urban Meyer is starting to figure that out, and I don't think he likes it. I wouldn't be surprised if he's having low-key talks with the board of directors at USC about that job and possibly starting that job in 2022 where he can go back to doing what he does, yelling at kids, recruiting, and making college championship teams, because whatever he's got going on in the NFL, it just ain't working. But I love your bad. Drew, what's your bad here?
I went all quarterbacks this week. So I went to our boy Jameis, who had a hell of a week last week. And then I guess I hope the truth is somewhere between last week and this week for him if he's going to start the whole year here. But that was a tough line. 50% completion rate, 111 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 INTs. His ratio for the season is still healthy, but that was tough to watch after what they did to the Packers last week.
A team that went from looking like a top 3 offense in the league to a team that looked like the Jacksonville Jaguars on offense in a week. I mean, what the hell? That's all I can say is what the hell? But
yeah, I mean, even in week 1, I mean, he threw the 5 touchdowns, which made him look great, but he only went 14 for 20 for 148 yards. I think a lot of that was set up by short fields because the Packers were turning it over. Yep. So I'm worried, and I had such high hopes for Jameis coming into this year, and I'm worried now, like facing New England and Bill Belichick, are we going to see Taysom Hill by week 4?
Yeah, I mean,
very possible.
We saw what Bill Belichick did to Zach Wilson, who, a lot of people are high on. They watched preseason. They even watched week 1 where he looked decent. And Bill Belichick just took him to school. And I have a feeling that if Sean Payton and Jameis don't get on the same page, man, it's going to be a repeat where you see the Jameis of old who he might throw for 300 yards, but he might also throw 3 or 4 interceptions, and you're just like, what happened here? But I love your bad for Jameis. So I switched it up. I went wide receiver for my bad. Allen Robinson, 2 for 24 and a touchdown. And that touchdown is the only thing that saved him from being ugly because, man, if you would have told me, hey, the Bears wide receiver 1 in the first 2 weeks of 2021 is going to be Darnell Mooney, I would say, hey, I love Darnell Mooney as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to go there yet. But that is exactly what's happened. It has turned into the Darnell Mooney show, and Allen Robinson is just kind of, running around, waving his hands and not getting anything. We'll see what happens. Justin Fields is supposed to start in week 3 for them, so we'll see if maybe that is the key to unlock Allen Robinson, because, I mean, Andy Dalton's not the key to unlock anything. So, we're gonna check that out and see what happens. But I'll slide right into my ugly, and I did stay on the wide receiver track for my ugly. A.J. Brown, 3 for 43. And it's like, okay, they only threw the ball to him 4 times. That's on 9 targets. He had at least 3 just flat out drops. I mean, listen, I'm hoping it's just a 1-week blip and we just move on. And next week he goes 7 for 110 and a touchdown, and we just laugh about week 2. Oh, it was so funny. But there's a lot of people who, have been putting AJ Brown out there, and it's been a little hurt for the first 2 weeks of the season. So we'll see what happens. But Drew, why don't we hit your ugly? Who was ugly this week in fantasy?
Hurts to say it. I like the guy a lot, and I hope he picks it up here. But Joe Burrow, 19 to 30, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ugly pick 6, and was especially ugly was the tackle attempt at the end. I appreciate the effort. I appreciate wanting to lay it all out there for your team, but sometimes you got to make a business decision.
At least he didn't hurt his shoulder like Baker did trying to tackle an interception.
So I feel for the guy. I didn't watch much of the game, so I don't know if a lot of that was a result of the O-line just letting pressure get to him, or what the deal was there. But hopefully that was just an anomaly for the season. He gets back on track next week.
Yeah, I love Burrow so much. That was hard to watch, but yeah, Rocky, why don't you hit us with your ugly?
Okay, so my ugly is a little different here. I had to get a little particularly Petrella with it. Hashtag particularly Petrella. But it's the QB top 12, at least to other people. To me, it's kind of beautiful because if you look at it, if we look at the top 12, you got, Tom Brady in there, who everybody knows is good, but you could draft super late.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, number 4. This is, by the way, it can vary upon your scoring. I'm using actually the Timeline League scoring, which is pretty standard. It's 4 points, -2 for interceptions, that kind of thing. But you also got Derek Carr in the top 10, Jared Goff in the top 10, our boy Kirk Cousins at number 10.
We love you.
Teddy Bridgewater at 11, Matthew Stafford at 12, and if we can even go beyond 12, you got Tyrod Taylor at 13 and Matthew Stafford at 14. So that was like 8 guys. I think 7 or 8 guys I just named there that nobody was drafting early. And I know it's only 2 weeks, but I just love to see it as a guy who likes to draft quarterbacks late. I look, none of those guys in they don't have the Superflex ADP up for September yet, but I just looked in the positional QB startup ADP for DLF, and none of those guys is going above QB 16, and they're all in the top 14 in scoring. So again, I know it's not going to hold up this way. Josh Allen is not in there. I'm sure he will be. Aaron Rodgers is not because of his week 1. Herbert is not, but I just love seeing all the low end, quote unquote low end quarterbacks that nobody wants to draft producing early on here. It's beautiful for me to see, but maybe ugly for others.
Well, and it's funny because we're all in Superflex Army 2 together, and if you looked at my QB room before the season, it was Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones as the top 2 guys. And I'm sitting pretty right now.
Right,
Sam
yeah.
Darnold and Daniel Jones. It's like, hey, listen, the names might not make you fall over, but their play is quite all right for what I have going on. So, yeah, I mean, it has been crazy. I mean, you have guys like Dak who had the amazing week 1, but then, the low scoring week 2. I mean, a lot of those top guys, Lamar has kind of been like, a little bit and up and down. So it's, you're absolutely right. And hey, whenever you can keep that hashtag trending, I'm all about it. Before we go into the timeline, though, we got an interesting question, and since we got some smart people here, we're gonna take it. This is from Flick. David Montgomery, Kyle Pitts, and Stephon Diggs for Juju, Jamar Chase, Dalvin Cook, and Jared Cook. Oh, 2 Cooks. All right, so I want to do the math in my head real quick.
There's a lot going on in that trade.
There's some pieces moving. Okay, I think I know what side I'm on. I don't know if you want me to start or someone else wants to start.
You can start while I process it unless Drew wants to.
So just looking at this, I like just about everybody in the trade except for Jared Cook, who's been actually really good this season so far. So I can't totally hate on Jared Cook. But I think I'm going with the Jamar Chase, Dalvin Cook side of this. I love Jamar. Jamar was my number 1 non-quarterback coming out of this class. So I loved him more than Najee, loved him more than, everybody else that pretty much wasn't a quarterback. So you can give me that. Dalvin Cook, yes, I know he's questionable, but it sounds like the coaching staff there is just going to run him till the wheels fall off. So you got him for maybe another week or two, hopefully longer. But he's elite. He's RB2 in my book. And Juju, he might blow up if this Deontay thing hangs for a while. If it's a bad injury and he misses 3, 4, 6 weeks.
Don't you jinx him.
Listen,
you jinx him, Josh.
Just like I got Hawk everywhere, I got a whole lot of Deontay too. This is the Deontay podcast. So trust me, I don't want that evil on him, but I have to. I can't get my hopes up. I have to be even keeled about this. So Juju could be a nice little addition. I like David Montgomery. I think he's going to blow up this year. But Kyle Pitts, I feel like Kyle Pitts is going to be that guy that for year one he'll be fine, but he's not going to be that guy that maybe next year or the year after I think he's going to be. And then Stephon Diggs, I think he'll be fine, but this Josh Allen thing could start worrying people. So. Yeah, give me the Chase and Cook side. What about Drew? What about you, man?
Oh, this is tough. I'm definitely a Juju fan. I love Jamar Chase. I like Dalvin Cook as long as I have some options behind him. If I'm just top heavy at running back, that scares me a little bit. And Jared Cook, yeah, I mean he could continue to surprise folks this year. Some of this depends on settings, how many you have to start. But, I probably like that group of 4 players. Hope that Jared Cook is serviceable. I see here in the notes that Higbee's also available, which is a fine pickup as well. And then, I'd probably look to see what can I turn maybe Dalvin into, depending on what I need at running back as well. So I would probably take the value on that side of it.
All right, Rocky.
I keep looking at this and going back and forth, and I can't decide. I think you guys have talked me into the. I was initially leaning the Montgomery Pitts Diggs side. I mean, I think Pitts might have the most value of any of these 7 players, and by the time 2022 rolls around, in at least in tight end premium leagues. I'm starting to become a believer in David Montgomery. I know he didn't have a great week in week 2. But he produced well in week 1 versus a tough Rams defense. And Tariq isn't going to be there until at least week 7 or so. So he can even command some passing work. And Diggs is just fantastic. I know he hasn't gotten off to the quickest start either. Probably mostly because Josh Allen hasn't gotten off to the best start. But I just think the other side, Jamar Chase already looks like he's going to be a points producer year 1. His value's going to shoot through the roof, and he's going to score for you. I mean, if he keeps producing the way he's producing, he's going to be minimum top 5 wide receiver in this offseason, just value-wise. Forget about points-wise. Juju is extremely underrated at all times in PPR anyway. And I kind of hope he gets off that team so he can be used better instead of catching like 3-yard slants every down or whatever. But and Dalvin's going to score for you this year, and Jared Cook's serviceable. So I think I lean that side. But it is really tough. I really like both sides, but I think because of Jamar and because you're getting those 2 young receivers, even though receivers a deep position, you're getting one that's going to be top 5 and one that's going to be a solid wide receiver 2 for years. And Dalvin Cook could help you win a league this year, as could Chase. So, I think I got to go there, even though I love the Pitts Diggs aspect of the other side.
Absolutely. So we went 3 for 3. So Flicked, I hope that helps. But now we're going to do what we do here. We're going to get into what we saw on the timeline. And this first question here is from 2 Utah at Steve Sanders 600. 12-team Superflex Dynasty PPR tight end premium. Which side? Now, I want to preface this by saying that this was tweeted before the week 2 game happened. So just so you kind of, get a little bit of context behind it. So Brandon Ayuk and Trey Sermon, or Javonte Williams. So Bill's favorite player in the league. I wish he was here, Trey Sermon. And Brandon Ayuk, who, Brandon Ayuk has underperformed. Trey Sermon, there was the week 1 inactive, and everyone has a theory about why he was inactive. I just think he was inactive because Kyle Shanahan didn't think he needed to be on the 53-man roster. But and then week 2, he gets 1 carry and he gets hurt. But Rock, I'm sure you were watching that game because your Eagles were playing. He didn't get that carry to the 4th quarter, right?
No, right. Yeah, no. It was late.
I wanted to make sure I was right about
they
that.
even had mentioned that on the broadcast that he hadn't been in the game. It was Elijah Mitchell the entire game with a little bit of Hasty mixed in here and there until that carry where he gets concussed. I think, that was his only touch of the game.
Well, I think both of those guys had gotten hurt.
Right.
And then Trey Sermon came out and he got hurt. And then I think they put Mitchell back in because I don't think they had it. Oh, no, Trenton Cannon came in for a little bit. I forgot
he
about
did.
Good old Trenton Cannon. How could I forget about him? And then they saw Trenton Cannon run once or twice, and they were like, all right, Elijah, I know you're hurt, but we got to get back in. So,
but by the way, you do not want, if you're an NFL team, you do not want Trenton Cannon on your roster since he came from the Ravens, whose roster was totally destroyed of running backs before he came to the 49ers. So.
It's all Trenton Cannon's fault. We are going to be on alert. If Trenton Cannon gets cut by the 49ers, he does not end up on the Cowboys. That's all I know. You stay away from my team. Don't do it. But all right, Drew, why don't you start us off, man? Which side of this deal do you like?
This was the same before and after week 2 for me. Javonte was my number 2 running back coming out of the draft. I may even like him better long-term than I do Najee. So for me, it's pretty easy. I like Javonte here. I think Ayuk he's exciting, and some of the highlights from last year are definitely promising coming into this year. I also would rather, change up some of my teams. I don't know that I want both Ayuk and Sermon on the same roster if I can help it, but Javonte's anywhere I can get him, I will take him.
See, I knew I liked Drew. Javonte was also my number 2 guy, pre-draft and then post-draft. And I agree. I wish I could disagree, so it would be more interesting. But I also agree with Drew. It's Javonte for me, and it would have been even before week 2. But the fact that the 2 of them still didn't do anything makes it even easier. And like you said, it's not like, I know Sermon got the concussion, but it's not like they were even trying to use him before that. Right. So Ayuk, I've talked about it on Trade Addicts with Russ. Both of us have been down on him all off season compared to the community. A lot of his production, as many people have stated, was with either Debo or Kittle or both out. I'm not saying he's not a good receiver, but we've seen Debo producing these first couple weeks. I don't think he's going to take a second, play second fiddle to Ayuk at any point this season. And Kittle still hasn't produced yet either. So where's Ayuk getting his from? I mean, those 2 I think are going to be higher in the pecking order because they've, Kittle is Kittle, excuse me, and Debo already started showing it this year. So, and I've never liked Sermon as much as everybody else either. So that makes it really easy for me. So Javonte before, Javonte after.
All right, well, this is going to end up being real boring because we're going to make it 3 for 3. And I would have done this trade before the season started, before I knew that Trey Sermon was going to be an inactive, before I knew that Brandon Ayuk was going to be a nothing so far through the first 2 weeks of the season. Rocky, the reason why you and I and Russ and I get along so well is because we think very similarly about a lot of things. I was not all in on Brandon Ayuk. There were plenty of people who gave me a million reasons about why I was wrong about Brandon Ayuk, and I brought up the same thing. You never saw a game where Brandon Ayuk blew up where Debo and George Kittle were playing. You didn't see it. It didn't happen. And listen, when you are the one guy on a team, yeah, you can get targets, you can get yards, you can get touchdowns. I mean, we were saying this about Marvin Jones last year. Well, Kenny Galladay's gone, and there's not really anyone else, and that's why he's doing all that. Now, I also argued that Marvin Jones is actually good at football. But, if you're the only guy left on a team, I mean, think about CeeDee Lamb for this week. If Amari Cooper can't play because of his ribs, there's no Gallup, there's no Cooper. I mean, CeeDee Lamb might get like 48 targets in that game because, who else is left? Maybe you throw a couple passes to the running backs. Maybe you split up 10 to the tight ends. And what's left? CeeDee Lamb. So, I mean, we see this happen all the time, and I feel like that was Brandon Ayuk's situation. And all three of them have been healthy so far. And, some people have been like, yeah, he had a hamstring thing or whatever. But, I mean, he's out on the field. He's running routes, and he's not getting the ball. So, I mean, that just kind of shows me. But, yeah, we're going 3 for 3. It's Javonte for us. But I put this up here because it was like a 51-49 split. So obviously, if you have these two guys, I would throw them at somebody for Javonte and see what happens, because maybe it's the 2 for 1. Maybe people are saying, well, I get 2 of these guys, and if one of them gets back to form, like, I'll be okay. But, I mean, usually when you are doing those 2 for 1s, the one guy is the best guy in the deal, and there's a reason why you're giving up 2 players to get that one guy. So, yeah, we went 3 for 3, even though we are in the very slim majority in that 51%. So, before I hit the next one, though, we got another question here from Timothy Chan. Should I trade away Mike Evans, Miles Sanders, and Allen Robinson for Rondell Moore?
I think Rondell Moore. Yeah.
And Rondell Moore, for Austin Eckler, Josh Allen, I'm going to assume, and Jamar Chase.
Yeah, it's like Keenan or Josh. I think we need to know.
Oh, Keenan. How did I forget about Keenan Allen? I love him. Well, since I don't see any other quarterbacks, we'll make the assumption that it's Keenan. Timothy, if you're still hanging out, let us know. But on the assumption that it is Keenan Allen, let's see here. We got to do the quick math, which always makes for good podcasting. Lots of silence, especially on a live show.
I'll jump out there real quick, and I'll take the front end of this one. I'll take Evans, Sanders, A-Rob, and Rondell.
Okay, good, because we can argue this now. So that works out. Because I think I would take Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Jamar Chase, just because there are a lot of question marks on that other side, in my opinion. Mike Evans is playing the Bucs wide receiver roulette. You never know which week you are going to catch a zero, because Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin and the reemergence of Rob Gronkowski will leave him scoring like 3 points and tanking your week. Miles Sanders, I'm like so unsure of, because they beat up Atlanta in week 1 and he was a bona fide stud in that game. And then in a defensive struggle, it was kind of like, meh. Allen Robinson, like I said earlier, hopefully Justin Fields is the guy to unlock him, because so far he has been kept under lock and key. Rondell Moore, man, that explosion. And I think that's just the start of things to come. I don't think that was a 1 week, oh, he got lucky and he got open. I think you're going to see a lot more weeks like that from Rondell, but I think Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Jamar Chase are just going to be more consistent big point scorers. So that's why I picked that time. So, Rocky, you get to break the tie.
I will break the tie, and I am going to go with Josh on this one. I don't love having 2 guys on the same team like that, Eckler and Allen, but I think both can score big this year. So I'm not too worried about it, especially because they've both gotten off to pretty good starts. Both of them had iffy weeks 1 week, and I think pretty good the other week. But Herbert hasn't even really gotten going yet either. They've had some struggles in the red zone that I don't think they'll keep up all year. And I think Eckler especially can be a big difference maker this year. He's going to get that passing work. Everybody freaked out when he had, I think it was 0 targets week 1.
0 targets.
Yeah. and he ended up, I don't know how many targets he had, but I know he had 9 catches in week 2. So we saw that wasn't something that's built into the offense. And Keenan's going to get a ton of catches, but I think Eckler especially, and he's also getting work inside the 5. The first week 1, he scored a touchdown from inside the 5 rushing. And I was listening to a late round podcast, and JJ mentioned they didn't have any inside the 5 carries, but they did have a 2-point conversion in week 2, which Eckler got the carry and scored on. So they seem to be using him in a goal line situations. And if he's getting that on top of the passing work that we all expect him to, and he did in week 2, he's top 5, top 3 is not out of the question. I think, CMC light. He could be. He's not going to get as many rushes, but he's going to get just as much work in the passing game. So, and of course, Chase is great too. And like you said, on the other side, there, every single guy you can bring up questions for. Rondale Moore is a rookie. Evans has Godwin and AB and Gronk to compete with. Sanders with the Eagles offense, what's that going to be? And Allen Robinson with the core issues. So yeah, I'm with you, Josh.
But now that I know that Drew likes Mike Evans, I have him in Superflex Army too. So I'll be sending you a trade offer tonight. We'll see what I can get back for Mike Evans. But here's another one from Ridley Truther, and I know that that makes my Trade Addicts pod brethren very happy here because they were the original Calvin Ridley Truthers. Hey boys, good to have yous back. What do you think? Trade CEH for 2023 first. The trading team is rebuilding. And Christian Kirk. Kind of want to get any first that I can while I can for CEH. So this is easy for me. Yes, if anyone is offering you a first-round pick for CEH, do that because I thought he was a value this year in startups. I thought that people were way too low on CEH, and after these first 2 weeks, I am starting to believe I was wrong in that situation. They just are not using him the way that I think he should be used. But the problem is that the Chiefs are so good, they're going to win a bunch of games. There's no reason for them to change their game plan. So I think this is pretty much what you're going to see from CEH. And if you can get a 2023 first for a low end RB2 at the best, yeah, do that. I mean, you're getting Christian Kirk, he's whatever that first. That's what. Yeah, I would be grabbing that first. What do you guys think?
I have more faith in your opinion than you do, Josh, because I do think he was a value, and I think people are overreacting now. And it's funny too because they overreacted the other way a year ago. Yeah. After week 1 and prior to week 1 when he got drafted by the Chiefs. But I still think he can. I don't think he's ever going to be like I was just saying about Eckler, top 5. Even as a pass catcher of a top 5 RB season because Mahomes doesn't like to throw to the running back. And I still think though he produced as a low end RB1 before he got hurt last year, and I still don't think that's out of the question, or at least tie into. It is a rebuild, so I can see moving him, and I don't hate getting the 2023 first, but I still think you're selling him low, and I think he's going to have some boom games. I think he's going to improve from this. My only worry is they did put Darrell Williams in for a goal line carry. Darrell Williams had 2 carries for -3 yards and had a touchdown. But that's the only thing. But I think he will get some touchdowns too. We'll have to see how that part goes because that was, right from the beginning last year, he had those 6 carries, I think it was in week 1 in 2020. And didn't score on any of them, and then they barely gave him any goal line carries. So I guess if he's not going to get any of them, it might not turn around as much as I hope. But like I said, he still did it last year through 12 games or so before he sustained the injury. I just don't want to sell him at this point. It's not a horrible return given where his value is, but basically most people are thinking he's dead at this point. So I'd rather wait and have him rebound and then maybe sell him. If you want to get out, but I'm personally, I don't mind buying. Actually, I think he's going to produce more than people think based off these first 2 games because the first 2 games have been awful.
So would you buy for a 2023 first?
I would. I would for a single first, even in 2023, the amazing class that's coming up in 2 years. I would buy for a single first. I might have to go and send out some offers, see if I can get any of those done. Because I think a first is fairly cheap. He's also been getting like 80% of the running back touches overall.
Yep.
So he's getting volume. I think eventually in that offense, it's going to translate again. Not that he's going to be Dalvin Cook or something, but he can still be an RB1 for you, I think, despite these bad first 2 games.
All right, so Drew, now you get to break the tie. Are you going with CEH or are you going with a 23 first and Christian Kirk?
If I have him, I am most likely willing to take the 23 first for him. And Kirk is a nice bonus. Good luck figuring out which week to start him, but ultimately, I would take that, especially if I'm rebuilding. It's always fun to think about the opposite side. I've got a league where I'm looking for running backs a little bit, and I'm trying to think, would I give a 23 first and get CH back? That's tough. I feel like that's closer than maybe I gave it credit for to start. But I feel like this question here, I'd move CEH to another team to get that first, and then who knows what you can do with Christian Kirk as well. Maybe find somebody that has a Landry and MT and a couple other guys that are hurt, and they just need another wide receiver week 7 or something like that. But I'm fine moving him for that, and I think that's where I'd land.
Nice, I like it. And we got one here from our brother Justin at Run DFF. CEH is officially a poor man's Dobbins. So there you go. Ridley Truther, if you want another expert's opinion on it, CEH is officially a poor man's Dobbins. Except maybe he's a rich man's Dobbins because he's actually playing right now while JK is rehabbing from an ACL tear. So,
and I think I'm far in the minority on this. So I think I got to throw out some 22 or 23 first for CEH and see if I can get him.
All right, so I'm hoping that on next Monday's episode of the Trade Addicts podcast, I hear about all of your CEH deals because I will definitely be very interested in that. But all right, let's move on to the next tweet here from the Dynasty Trades guy at Dynasty Trader 2. Which would you rather? This is a 12-team 1 QB Dynasty league. A late 2022 first, how you know that? Or Damian Harris. And I put this up for a specific reason as well. But Drew, why don't you start us off? Do you want that late first, so to speak, or do you want Damian Harris?
The easy answer is, what are you trying to do this year? If I want points, I want Damian Harris. It seems like he's getting some significant work. I've got him stashed away in a couple of places. It's been nice to be able to use him with some of the injuries this year. I don't do a lot of 1 QB, so I know that kind of gets diluted a little bit compared to what we get in Superflex. So I would probably take Damian Harris and take the points now if I can, and then see where that pick ends up. Like you said, though, if you're treating everything as a late, if I'm getting the pick, I'm always assuming it's later than it is, just to make sure I'm getting the worst case scenario. If I'm the one with the pick, I'm assuming it's earlier than I hope it is, so that way I'm not mismatching my expectations with the reality in a couple of months. But I think in most cases, I'm looking to try to make a push now. I'd rather have the points now if I can. All
right, Rocky, what about you?
I agree with you in that I'm usually trying to get the points now, but I think I would trade Harris for the first. I'm not a huge Harris believer. Me and Jerry, I believe, actually have him in timeline. So if anyone wants to throw a first at us, we'll see what Jerry thinks. But
like knock on your door.
But like our team there, I think if you have Harris, he's probably at most your RB3. I think he's our RB4. So I would be willing to take that first and maybe see if I can either send that first for something I like better than Damian Harris or package it with something else to upgrade elsewhere. But I'm just not a huge Damian Harris believer. He's nice and he's not a bad player, but I don't see that Patriots backfield or team scoring a lot of touchdowns. Maybe middle of the pack at best in terms of scoring. and he's not going to get almost any of the receiving work. So, I mean, he's maybe a nice little middling RB2. Is probably a ceiling. So I'll take a first for that, and hope to get something better next year. Use it as a trade chip to get something I like better than Damian Harris.
All right, so
another tiebreaker.
Yeah, and I get to agree or disagree with somebody now. I'm going with Damian Harris here. Listen, 1 QB leagues, we know what these late firsts end up being. It's usually, you're going with your, we talked about them earlier, your Trey Sermons of the world, the guys that should be early to mid seconds in those super flex leagues that you're kind of maybe not. They might be good. And those are the guys that usually get pushed up because obviously quarterbacks, they take a dip in that format. So yeah, I don't want a guy that I know is scoring points now and trade him for a guy that I'm probably going to be questioning come draft time. Now, obviously, we're all pretty big traders here. So it's one of those things where we probably would end up moving that pick for something else or packaging it with something else in order to maybe get a better piece, because I mean, I personally would not want to keep that low first if I could avoid it. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely 100% in the Harris court. Drew, anything else you want to?
No, I don't know what you said or how you said it, but you offended our guest here, so I can change my mind if it'll bring him back.
He ran out on us. He said, "Forget you guys. You don't like my players, and I don't like you." And I get it. I mean, I have that effect on people, but I do want to say this right here. In the OG league, since it's pretty standard scoring, Damian Harris is RB19, so he's like a low end. He's a low end RB2, which, I mean, listen, like Rocky said earlier, if he's your RB3 or even your RB4, you're making out in the deal because you're getting an RB2 that you're putting into a flex spot, or is, the 9th guy that you're starting in a start 11 because you're so stacked at that running back position. So, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just to, is 46 right now through 2 weeks. So, I mean, Damian Harris is better. I'm just saying. But, he came back. He heard we were disparaging his man.
The good name of Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Yeah, disparaging the good name of Clyde Edwards. I was just saying that in the OG league, Damian Harris is 19 and CEH is 46 in points so far through 2 weeks. So,
yes, that's 2 weeks.
It's like we always say, after week 1, if your take was right,
exactly. I'll take the victory lap on Hawk after 2 weeks. But
that's right.
With CEH, it's only 2 weeks.
Right, it's only 2 weeks. We have the rest of the season to make this work out. So, that's a good one. And honestly, Rocky's in the majority. 62% went with that late first, and only 38% went with the Damian Harris side. I mean, listen, sometimes 68% of people or 62% of people are wrong. I mean, that's what it is. But so we'll move on to the next one here. This is from Anthony at FF Anthony 2. 2 QB league. Should I trade away Lamar and Najee for CMC and Matt Ryan? His other QB is Brady. and I guess his top running back is King Henry. So let's go through this. Personally, I'm on that Lamar and Najee side. I mean, we talk about this all the time. The running quarterback is the Konami code. Like people. The big thing coming out of this week was that Jalen Hurts didn't throw a touchdown pass, but he had 22 points because of the running. So, I mean, those running quarterbacks are always have you in a game, no matter if you're down by 10 or you're down by 30. And Najee, yeah, that offensive line is really making any production he might have look scary. But I can't trade for Matt Ryan right now. I mean, I can't do it. I mean, and I don't think it's 100% him. I do think some of it is on him, but that offensive line is scary bad. And I mean, he may not make it to week 6. Like, that's just the facts. They're not good. And, yeah, that's all I can say about Matt Ryan. So give me Lamar, give me Najee. I know CMC is the GOAT, but I got to take that side in this deal, especially in a 2 QB league. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, CMC is about the only guy that would make me think about this move here. But you got Lamar, who's averaging 100 yards rushing each week. If you can put together a little bit of the passing, which it was so good this week to see him come from behind and beat a team like the Chiefs, where it seems like that's just been such a hurdle to get over. Hopefully that unlocks something for him. It's close, I think, but I would much rather have Lamar and Brady and Henry. I think I would stick with Lamar and Najee. And, I think everybody drafted Najee as if he was going to be a difference maker this year. So be patient. It's only week 2. See what they make of it.
I think we have an episode title, Josh.
Yeah.
Before I answer, I just wanted to shout out Ridley Truther in the chat, who says he's loving my Eagles hat. I also wanted to show him here. I got the Ertz jersey on too. So
yeah.
But he said South Philly, born and raised. So I just had to give him a shout out for that. But I'm actually with you guys, and I'm on the quarterback side with Lamar. But it's also because I love Najee too. Like Drew said, it's only 2 games. Episode title. Only week 2, whatever we're using. And I just think Najee is going to be better than he has been through these first 2 games. And Lamar, CMC is a cheat code, but I mean, Lamar is a cheat code too. So maybe it was a different quarterback than Lamar, or a different quarterback than Matt Ryan, who I agree has looked like trash pretty much. Even last week, he had a half decent fantasy day, but threw 3 interceptions, including 2 pick sixes. I can't. Even for CMC, I mean, I guess I still think Najee is another guy who can be in that low end RB1 range. I mean, we saw Taylor. I mean, I know Taylor was getting carries taken away, but even just running the ball, we saw him get off to a slow start last year. There were issues like hitting the holes properly and all that kind of stuff, and he even had a better line to deal with than Najee does. So I think Najee will figure it out. He'll be better than he has been. He'll figure out how to deal with this O-line. They'll get him more involved in the passing game. So that helps make up for a lot of it too. The fact that you're losing CMC. And like Drew said, I mean, you still have Brady, Lamar, Najee, and Henry on this team. So I'm fine with that. And as much as I love having Christian McCaffrey, I'll take the Lamar side.
So we went 3 for 3 there. So I think, Brock, you nailed it on the head. The disparity between Lamar and Matt Ryan is really what tilts it in that favor, especially in a 2 QB. If we were talking about somebody, a quarterback either closer to Matt Ryan or on the flip side, closer to Lamar, maybe we would think this through a little bit more. But I mean, CMC can cover up a lot of sins, but I don't even know if he can cover up Matt Ryan. So that's what makes it tough. But
I mean, even if it was another low end quarterback, maybe even like a Daniel Jones who's gotten off to a good start and has running ability himself. I mean, I still don't love Daniel Jones, but that would make me think more about it than I have a couple shares of Matt Ryan as the guy who, gets those older guys, and I am not loving it right now. So,
but in your defense, you have a lot of Tom Brady, I'm sure, which you've been,
and Kirk Cousins,
and Kirk. Listen, you gotta have. I got him in SFB, and I just chef kiss every week when people are like, I'm like, listen, Kirk Cousins is always going to be on the positive side of that 66% completion. And the offense has actually been running real well in Minnesota so far this year. I know Adam Thielen had a couple touchdown catches in week 1. They're doing their thing. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins will be universally hated by everyone till the day he retires. And I will universally just be picking him up every chance I get because, let's face it, I love him. So, but here we go. We'll go from one quarterback to another here. Jesse Moeller at Jesse Moeller 05. If you have Justin Fields, are you starting him this week? On rosters, I have him. I'm starting him unless I have a top tier QB. That Konami code is tantalizing. So, I know Drew loves Justin Fields almost as much as I do. So you have a lot of shares. I have shares. Drew, what are we doing with him? You love him. Are we starting him? Is he our QB2 in Superflex? Are we hesitant because Matt Nagy? What are we doing here, Drew? You're muted.
No, I'm not. I got so excited I couldn't even unmute myself. Talent wins, man. We drafted him for a reason. I held desperately to the 102 in as many rookie drafts as I could to make sure I had a shot at him. And especially if he's my QB too. And if I'm on a roster where I had the 102 for a reason, like I sucked last year, then what else do I have to lose? If he's terrible and he doesn't help my team win this year, then I get a better pick next year to put with him. So 100% starting him wherever I have him, unless I have I don't even know if I have the scenario. I don't think I do. If I've got a scenario where I've got like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes ahead of him, but even then, until Josh Allen comes on, why not roll the dice,
That's love. Now I got a question for you. What was that? We test you every now and again just to make sure you're true fantasy timeline co-host material here. You failed the Deontay test, which is fine. I can forgive you for that. Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins? There's only one right answer.
Oh my God.
There's only one right answer, Drew.
I love it.
Justin Cousins.
Justin Cousins. I like it. Justin Cousins.
I think I might need to replace Drew going forward, Josh. I mean, I'm a Cousins and Deontay guy, so.
Listen, I mean, Drew, we've had a good run, but unfortunately,
was it the best interest of the podcast clause at the end of my contract? Is that what
I don't know if you saw that very fine print. It's kind of like the Willy Wonka contract at the end where you need the magnifying glass to see everything that's written. But
didn't see that before he went on retainer.
Yeah, listen, you gotta look at the fine print. People don't look at it. But I agree with some of what you're saying, Drew. If you're in a situation to start Justin Fields, I don't see a lot of scenarios where you aren't. I mean, you're probably not, running out there with Josh Allen and Kyler Murray or Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson or something like that. You probably have maybe a top end, maybe you have Patrick Mahomes, but your second guy might be Derek Carr, So yeah, even Derek Carr has been playing out of his mind for the first 2 weeks of the season. We all know that eventually, like a magic trick, that's going to go up in smoke. And why not put Justin Fields out there? He has the whole week to prepare as a starter. He's not coming in on game scripted plays. He's not coming in because Andy Dalton got injured. He has been training the entire week, working with the first team, running plays with the first team. And this is it, man. Now, listen, if he comes out here and he flames out and he's terrible, all right, you reassess for week 4. But I think unless you have a stacked quarterback position, you're going with him. You're putting him in. He's that QB2. He is that super flex. And, you watch what happens. What are you doing, Rocky?
Before I answer, I was just wanted to ask Drew what might be a tough run. And I could see this scenario because I could see you drafting Justin Fields because maybe you have this guy on your roster. Justin Fields or Tom Brady?
I still go Brady.
Okay.
Smart.
Go Brady. Yeah,
I think I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
You didn't tell me I had to interview for the job again, Josh.
Listen, once you got the Kirk Cousins question wrong, we have to question, where your head's at.
Yeah. It just tosses. Yeah, it just makes us question everything about you. So, but I think, it depends what quarterback I have. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily an easy matchup this week either versus Cleveland, who's got a pretty decent defense, decent D-line. But I think in most scenarios, I'm probably starting Fields. So like Drew said, if you have Fields, there's a decent chance he might be your second best quarterback on your roster. I mean, again, it's hard to answer without knowing what the other quarterbacks we're talking about are. But I do think I would personally start. But I'm trying to win now, and I have Fields as like my third quarterback. I'm starting Cousins over Fields. But in a lot of scenarios, I can see that if I have like Matt Ryan, if I have Jameis Winston, if I had one of those kind of guys as my QB2, and I was waiting for Fields to come on, then yeah. But it's like I said, I think in most cases, I'm probably starting Fields, but it's hard to answer without knowing the exact quarterbacks.
I'll throw the toughest scenarios I've got here. So in a couple of leagues, I've got Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, and then
I'm not starting Fields.
Okay. Yeah. And then the other one, our league. I don't think I play. I already played Timeline. I don't think I'm playing Rocky O'Shea this week. I think I'm playing somebody else. So Rodgers or Fields is my QB2.
Rodgers.
Yeah, I think you have to go Rodgers.
After week 2, I think he put himself back in the.
Which, by the way, I'm glad Josh still had me on this week after Rocky O'Shea smacked down the Timeline team in week 2.
Hey, man, the productive struggle is in full effect. Luckily that, I'm actually glad we're not winning games because in all honesty, that was our game plan. We were doing the productive struggle this year. So we're looking good. We're 0-2, but we're still
pacing for the 101 and the 102 right now.
Well, we got Larry's pick, and I don't know if you guys have listened to the latest episode of the Hot Sauce podcast yet, but Larry
but not yet.
He swears that his team won't be 101, and I can't say, okay, man. I mean, and it's not because he drafted poorly; it's because like half his team is on IR. But I mean, half your team is still on IR. He just made a trade to get his the first love of his life, Sam Darnold. So he traded Jerry Jeudy away for that. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm watching his point totals and I'm going, I know you keep saying you're not going to be 101, but I mean, doesn't make it true. But
he has no potential points right now. No potential points. They're all on IR.
They're all on yeah. And here's Steve in the chat. I don't think he'll be 101. Steve came in with an epic week 2 to overtake that on points right now. So, so
I appreciate it, Steve.
Bless him because my goodness, I thought Larry had it locked up for sure. And then Steve kind of came in the back door and said, "Wait a minute, I can get the 101." Listen. We traded away Michael Pittman. So even if it's the 102, I feel like we did very well in the deal. So even if it's the 102,
Is timeline draft order by potential points?
Yeah, I think
You
so.
guys are in bad shape through 2 weeks. Then I was just looking at it.
Yeah, we're like fourth worst.
Yeah, you're like 8th in potential point. Like you have the 5th most potential points.
Oh yeah, but I mean we're not going to win games, so we'll still end up.
I still might put you at 106 as the
You mean middle of the pack, baby?
Yeah. We have Larry's pick. The production struggle
true.
is working perfectly.
So you can trade yours and Larry's to Steve for his 101.
You should trade me some players so you can shed some of those potential points.
Hey, listen. That do you need a running back? We have a Darrell Henderson.
No, that's I might send a second for him.
I got a 22 second.
Yeah, you don't have Darrell Henderson then, unfortunately.
Okay.
That guy's like I think he's like top 12 in points in the league right now. So
you enjoy that 108.
I'm fine with it. We still have the 101. You can talk about our pick all you want. We still have the 101, baby. All right, let's hit this next one here on the way out. And this is actually from Larry Monkey. We always gotta put him on here. Rest of the season, Will Fuller or Rashad Bateman?
That's my co-owner, Jerry Shea. Jerry O'Shea, my bad. Sorry, Jerry, for butchering your name, but yeah, I Fuller. It's gonna be Fuller.
I mean, Fuller's playing this week.
Bateman is not.
He will have at least a 1 week head start. I don't know. I haven't heard much about this Bateman thing, so I don't know if he's like almost ready to go or still suffering. But
he should be eligible to come. I don't know if he will, but he's supposed to be he should be eligible to come off week 4 from IR. I did hear. I think I was listening to the Audible. They have that Dr. Gene Bramall on there, and he was saying that he was a guy he thought could come off IR as soon as he's eligible. So we'll see. But yeah, Fuller's, even with the suspension and whatever went on in week 2, he's still got a game advantage on Bateman now. So but yeah, Fuller, I still believe in Fuller. When he's on the field, he produces. So as long as he doesn't get hurt, knock on wood. But
listen, a sentence.
That's true.
A sentence I did not think I would say in 2021. Sammy Watkins has looked good out there. It wasn't just a week 1 explosion like he normally does, and then he falls asleep for the rest of the season.
It's only week 2.
He's had 2 good weeks.
Who's really looked good out there though is Hollywood.
Man,
Hollywood's a top 10 receiver through 2 weeks. Even though it's only 2 weeks.
I used to call him San Bernardino Brown because he couldn't be Hollywood like he played, but
yes.
he's starting to come back to Hollywood real quick. But
my Junkies co-host Scott Stillo calls him Hallmark Brown.
So Rashad Bateman might be back, but there's a little Sammy going on, a little Hollywood going on. Waddle has looked good in Miami, so I don't want to shortchange what's going on in Miami, but Will
Drew
Fuller
makes a good point though that how long is Jacoby Brissett going to be the one throwing them passes though? So
I know. That reminds me, I have 1 share of Jacoby Brissett that I need to sell right now. Yeah, if I can get me a second for Jacoby Brissett, man, he is off the team real quick. I need to find that Tua owner and go, I got Jacoby Brissett. It only cost you a 2nd round pick. But on that note, we got to do our shout out of the week. As you all know, the timeline eliminator through Fantasy Cares. We love doing it every year. John Bosch sets all those up, and he's the man. We're honored that so many people actually would want to play with us because I honestly don't have any idea why anybody would, but we do appreciate it. A shout out to John Pipak at JPip6. You are the 2nd man down in our Fantasy Cares Eliminator. It's been a fun ride. We had 2 weeks together, but like when you're in the 7th grade, after 2 weeks, you just say we got to go our separate ways, and maybe we'll meet up again in the future. So, John, we're sad to see you go, and I just am amazed every week that it's not the timeline that is the team out, because every time I look at that roster, it's so gross, and I don't know how we keep not being the last team. But hey, we're around for another week, so Rocky was our first week.
I was just gonna say, does that mean John gets to come on and co-host next? Is that how it works? You get eliminated, then you co-host the next.
Hey,
week?
listen, John, hit us up.
You might need to.
You're on next week because now, that we should do that. We should just have the loser come. Hey, come on and co-host. That's your prize for getting kicked out. And but yeah. So on that note, Rocky, thank you for coming on. Real quick, everybody should know who you are, but if for some reason they don't, tell them who you are, where they can find you, and what you're up to.
Yeah, you can find me at Dynasty FF Addict on Twitter. I don't, I think, tweet as much as I used to, but if you want to DM me, I'll always answer any questions, anything you want to talk about. I co-host Trade Addicts with Russ, Dynasty Outhouse, on the DAP Network. And my other podcast, Dynasty Junkies, also on the DAP Network. Follow that pod. Follow those two guys that I co-host with, Andrew Hall, who's awesome, at Andrew Hall FF, and Scott Sidlow at Scott_Sidlow. They're both great. So both of them, though, took the week off this week, so it'll just be me tomorrow. But as great as they are not hosting with me this week. So, but definitely follow those guys. Follow the pod. I occasionally host Dynasty Game Night as well. So thank you, Russ, for that opportunity. I've basically been the kind of sole host there for most of 2021. I think Matt might have done one, and Russ might have done one or two, and that's about it. So I think they're kind of glad I came on there. But so I'm keeping myself busy, but I was very glad to come on here tonight. Thank you so much for letting me come on, Josh, after I kind of pulled a Russ and basically invited myself on the show.
Listen, you're always welcome. I love having you on because you and I can talk, and we can disagree, and I know I've learned something at the end of the conversation. So it's a pleasure to have you on. Make sure you're following Rocky again at Dynasty FF Addict, because he's smart, and if you want to win at this game, you should be following smart people. To everybody in the chat, thank you. Ridley Truther, Lindsey Kennedy, Steve Dennis, the Hot Sauce guys were on there. Justin at Run DFF. I probably forgot somebody, but thank you everybody for coming on. Love it when the questions come through, because it just makes the show so much more fun. It gets us thinking about things that we don't have on our show sheet, which is also, at least in my opinion, a lot of fun. Remember, if you are in the chat, hit subscribe. Hit the bell, because not only do you get this show, but you do get, as Rocky mentioned, all the show, or almost all the shows that he hosts. Trade Addicts Pod, Dynasty Junkies are also on here, and those are both amazing shows that if you're not listening to, you should be listening to. If you're listening to this thing on podcast form, thank you again. An hour and 12 minutes. I say this every week, and I truly mean it. You can do anything else. You could be mowing your lawn, doing dishes, at work, hanging out with your kids or your wife or your husband, and instead you have this in your ears and you're listening to us. Just make sure, if for some reason you haven't, hit subscribe. Hit us with a rate and review so that other people can maybe find us, and we could just have more fun with more people. And on that note, Drew, we are out of here.
Late.